the fear of stigma, the fear of being judged. It could be even sheer of lack of support, right? It could be as simple as insecurities about the skills and the capabilities, even though we have worked for so long, but you have taken a break. You could have managed an event in your career break, right? Or you could have had you could have been a mother. Trust me, being a mother makes you an expert on handling multitasking, right? It's okay to have a career break. Please, I think that's the first thing that we need to accept. It's okay to have a career break. That's completely fine. But be confident. Yeah, that's one. And then what you should also look at is, if you've had a longer break, I'm sure there's so many things that you've done.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ujjwala. I am from Turkey, India's largest career engagement platform for women. And I'm here with our first session on women coming back to work. If you've been active on our social media channels, you will have seen over the last couple of months, we have been sharing a lot of insights on why women need to come back to work and why it's also okay for them to reach out to other people who have done it and learn and grow. So as part of the Mission 100,000 campaign, we are here with Aparna, who will be sharing a few invaluable insights from her personal as well as professional journey. And the topic we'll be discussing today is about a mindset shift, right? So how you turn your career break challenges into opportunities for growth. I'm hoping that you'll take away a lot of lessons from this session, some practical tips that you can actually start doing in your daily routine that will ultimately add up to your coming back to work. So let me introduce Aparna to you. Aparna, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this session. Can you give us a little bit of a background into your personal and professional journey?
Hey, thank you so much. And it's my pleasure to be a part of Herky's 10K campaign. And more than anything else, this is close to my heart as well. So with you guys, and I think I've seen the journey of before Herky, it was jobs for her. So I've seen the journey, and I truly believe that you guys are doing what is, the need of the hour as well. And this is not something that can be achieved overnight. It is a long process. So yeah, very proud to be here.
Thank you very much. We are happy to have you on this session.
Just to give you a little bit of background of where I came from, it's not something that I finished college, got into a career and all of it. So I think I got married, had a child. And then, when I was 28 is when I said, oh, what am I doing? So that's when I realized that I needed to get back, at least do what I want to do. Now, did I know what I want to do? Of course not. So that's where I reached out to friends and folks that I could, whose value addition that I valued more than anything else. I reached out, and then one of my very close friends, who's also, been my sponsor and my ally, she said, hey, we have an opportunity in the HR space. This was way back in 2000, where they were looking for somebody to join the team as a recruitment consultant, right? So I started there, and I said, I have no idea about recruitment. They said, it's all right, we will teach you. Now, that was an opportunity that I got, and I just jumped on it I don't think I thought too much those days. I just jumped into it. I said, here is somebody who's actually, helping me. So what will I lose? Right? You need to start somewhere. So didn't think about the long distance, didn't think about anything else. I just said, this is for me. Given an opportunity, let me make the best use. So that's where it started. And after that, I think there's been no looking back. Though in between, I took a 8 months break because my mom fell down and I'm the only child, right? So didn't think too much. I said, I have to be with her because she had hurt her shoulder. And the shoulder is such that you can't do it. If you've hurt your shoulder, there's nothing else. You need somebody to help you all the time. So that was the time when I took an 8-month break and then I got back to work. So yeah. So I started late, had an 8-month break, and then after that, there's been no looking back. So that's where it is.
Fantastic. I mean, I love how you've weaved the whole story right into the middle of where we want to start with you. You know, just the conversation that a lot of people fear, a lot of women fear having with, you know, other peers or their mentor or whoever it is. So thank you for bringing up the fact that you took that break without thinking twice, just as much as you jumped in without thinking twice. You didn't think twice about taking that break because it was for a good enough reason, right? So diving right into this, Aparna, I just want to highlight like a particular statistic that we as a team at Herky have been faced in the last couple of months. Studies have shown that only 20% of women participate in the Indian workforce. I mean, 20% is not even a figure that you can imagine to be true.
Absolutely.
But what are some of the things that you feel hold women back about even talking about this career break in the first place?
It's an interesting question that you've thrown up. So, but you know, it's like, I mean, all of us, you know, are very hesitant, right, to talk about, especially if you've had a career break. All of us are very hesitant. Like you saw my pause, that was, I did it on purpose to ensure that this is what all of us go through. It's not just you or me, all of us go through it. And I'm sure even the best of the best go through this, be it, somebody in the career that we are in, or be it a doctor who's taken a maternity break, or be it an athlete who's, you know, say, I mean, all of them, right? All of them will hesitate. But then, yeah, that is also because it's not just our own personal insecurities, but it could also be the societal pressures that we go through, right? It could be a combination of both. So that's, that could be one. Then what will people talk? I mean, what will they say? The fear of stigma, the fear of being judged. It could be even sheer of lack of support, right? It could be as simple as insecurities about the skills and the capabilities, even though we have worked for so long, but you have taken a break, that itself will come with its own insecurities about your skills and capabilities, even though you've been very successful previously, right? And I think in all of this, most of the organizations don't have workplace policies, right, which support career breaks. But we are changing. I can see a lot of organizations making that difference now. But those days, we didn't have. So we can make use of that. Yeah. And last but not the least, the cultural factors also make a huge difference. So this is, something
Yeah.
I thought summarizes the question that you asked me. Make sense?
Yeah, that's a perfect summary. That's a perfect summary. That just shows how it all boils down to a mindset shift. Literally the topic that we want to address today, right? Because
Absolutely.
most of what you've highlighted here are the things that we already know.
Correct.
We already know that there is some external force that is stopping us from doing this, right?
Right.
So the only thing that can lead us forward is our own mindset shift. I know that you've already spoken about your career break and how you started. It was interesting for me to hear that out, because most often when we come back or when we even think of returning to work, we usually take the plunge, whatever type of job it is, but we need to have that confidence first that I will be able to do it. That's where we get stuck, right? So if I had to ask you like 3 or 4 tips that you would like to give women who have taken a career break, that how can they highlight this gap on their resume, right? Like, don't be shy about your career break. Don't have it hinder what you want to put on your resume. Any tips or practical advice that women on a career break can take?
So the first thing that I would want to highlight is be honest about it, but at the same time, be confident. Don't feel, oh, if I'm honest, maybe they might not look at it or anything like that, right? It's all right. It's okay to have a career break. Please. I think that's the first thing that we need to accept. It's okay to have a career break. That's completely fine, but be confident. Yeah, that's one. And then what you should also look at is, if you've had a longer break, I'm sure there's so many things that you've done, right? You could have managed an event in your career break, right? Or you could have had you could have been a mother. Trust me, being a mother makes you an expert on handling multitasking, right? Trust me, no one else can do it better than us. That's something you get it on the job. Nobody can teach you that.
I agree. I agree.
That's relevant in the world that we live in, right? And also look at you should also look at what are some transferable skills that you've had. Like what I first said, right? Did you organize any community events? Today, because most of us live in larger communities, we all have that opportunity to take it up. But do we anywhere write it saying, hey, I've done this, I've led this community event? That also brings out your leadership role, right? Put it out. Tell people this is what you've done. Why not? How will an employer know otherwise? So hence, all I can say is a career break doesn't define your professional capabilities. There are ways to demonstrate your worth to a potential employer. These are some tips that I have, personally, I go through it. And I think this is something that I keep talking to myself about. Like, what if you've done, for example, I can tell you volunteering. I'm sure a lot of us do it. I have been doing it for the last 13 years now. Oh, and the skills that I have acquired doing it is far higher than anywhere else. So I'm very proud of the fact that I've been able to do it.
Yeah. That's so great. And that's how you actually pump yourself up also, right? It's not just about telling the employer what you are, but I think when you write that out, you actually realize how much you have done during that break. Absolutely. Which itself is like a confidence booster, right? So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I think 2 very valuable points. If you're listening in, if you've just tuned in, I'm going to sum up the first 2 points that Aparna has pointed out. Be confident. Okay, it's okay to take a career break, but make sure you put it out there. Whatever you've learned, transferable skills is what Aparna has said. And I think that is so true. There's so much that we learn on the job, whether it's being a mother or taking care of an elderly person like you did during your own break. It gives you the space and time to reassess and see where you want to go. So great tips. We're going to be recapping all this at the end of this video. So if you haven't, or if you've just joined in, don't worry about it. So I'm going to continue this conversation with Aparna though. So we've spoken about the resume bit. What do you think are some other normal, day-to-day routine where women can change their mindset about getting back to work or preparing to return to work? Let's say you're a mother, you're a new mother, and you've taken a break for a year. You want to come back, but you don't know where to start. So do I start by looking for jobs out there on a career platform like Key, or do I first start at the bottom and say, what do I need to be able to achieve this? Should I take up a course? Should I maybe change the way I look at things? So what in your experience, when you were returning to work, did you go through any phases of doubt that said, maybe I should do this first and then get back?
Absolutely. I think, you hit the nail on the head. Trust me, nothing, becomes very easy, right? So the first thing that I have always looked at is what is the job that you want to look at? 1 year back, you were doing something else, but obviously things have changed today, right? So before you start applying, try and look at your own skills that you come with, right? Saying what is it that you want to do? First and foremost, look at the jobs that are being advertised. One. Based on that, you will know where you stand, right? Now, do you see a gap? You don't need anybody else to tell you. You yourself will know, okay, I have an X skill, but I don't have a Y skill. Now, today, we are in a much better space than what we were 20 years back or anything, because with the number of online courses that's there where you can up your skill, right? Take it up. That's what I've said. Look at the job description. You feel, okay, there is one skill that I don't know, but it says this is the must to have, the need to have in the job description, right? Pick that up, learn it. So at least yes, you're aware of it. You might not have the practical knowledge, right? And that's one way of looking at it, right? Then continue with your professional networking. Don't ever give up. So what if you're a mother? You can still meet others, right? You need a break for yourself. Sure nobody will like me saying this, or I'm sure the old aunties that we have will never like me for it, but I don't care. Please understand, just being a mother shouldn't make us feel guilty. There is no manual which will tell us this is how a lady has to be just because she's a mother. Right? There is no SOP for us. Tell me, who has an SOP for life? We all look at our parents, we look at people around us, and we'll say, okay, this is how I'm supposed to live. Am I right? You agree with
me? Yes, absolutely. Nothing comes with an instruction manual, right? We go through and we learn on the job, and then we correct our mistakes, and then we move forward.
Absolutely. Literally. But if you ask me, who tells us that's a mistake? The society. I'm sorry. But please, they don't live our life. So hence, continue to have that professional network. Don't let that go. Research and try and understand what is the industry trends that you're looking at, right? That they're looking at. So suppose now you were in the IT industry, but you don't want to do IT industry, but you want to do a manufacturing or a healthcare. You need to understand what's happening in that particular industry. So it's always good to do that little bit of research. What happens is then you're automatically updating your own skills, right? You're understanding what's happening in the market. So that's one way of looking at it, right? And there are so many people out there whom you can reach and saying, hey, can I have you as a mentor, or do you want coaching? Unless we reach out, nobody will help us. So it's all right to ask. It's completely okay.
Because what's the worst that would happen, right?
Somebody will say no, but then if one person says no, there's always somebody else will say yes. Yeah, absolutely. That is what I've realized. But unfortunately, we don't ask because we already fear that they will say no to us. But we haven't realized some of them actually say yes.
That's so fun. That's so it's just, sometimes when you go through it and then you listen to it from somebody else, that's when you realize that, hey, this is probably what I've been missing out all the time. So there's another mindset shift that we've been talking about, right? The confidence level that you have of your own self comes from yourself. Either the lack of it or enough of it or whatever it is. I think mentorship, reskilling, all of it enhance confidence.
Absolutely.
But it has to come from within, right? And glad you brought up networking, because that was actually my next question. we tend to, I think, from a her key perspective, every time we've spoken about networking, we've had like all these online events with companies that, have women returnee specific events that they, host. I feel like a lot of them are very apprehensive because of this term networking. Somehow it seems very unattainable, like it's only for the men, or networking, they have like a picture in their head ki, Acha, I have to go to like a party where I have to socialize, I have to mingle with people I don't know, how do I do this, and all those other things, right? But thanks to virtual meetups, I think that has eliminated the fear of actually being there in person, but you can connect and learn so much during your break. So thank you for bringing that up. It's a very crucial aspect that we at Herky have always highlighted. But that brings me to another point that I have heard very often women speak about in my own circles, who say, Acha, I have had a break of 6 years. I have zero confidence. Okay, that's what they keep telling. And I feel like that's what they feed themselves with non-stop. Like, I don't have the confidence. So how do you bring about this change in people, in women who have been away from work for a long time, right? Versus a year or so?
So, and I'm sure that also brings in their own stress level, right? So I think the first thing I would normally say is a self-care and routine is so important. Why? Because you need to manage your own stress. No one else can manage it for you, right? And the best part for all of this is in that 6 years gap. Now you're giving me that example, right? I'm going to take that out. 6 years is not very long. Please, the minute you say it's not very long, everything else becomes very small, right? I'm sure you would have done so many things in that 6 years, which unfortunately we don't identify ourselves with. It could be you'd have taken up small, part-time work. Bring that on, right? You might have done something pro bono. Bring that up. All of that will upskill where you've come from. Unfortunately, we don't emphasize, or rather give ourselves that credit that I've done this. Trust me, doing a pro bono is not easy. You need to, that motivation comes from well within yourself, saying, I'm doing this not for money, but I'm doing this to upskill myself. Right? It can be a very small thing. It could be even scheduling. It could be as simple as, giving say, for example, there is a marathon that's being held and you're volunteered there. And even to give somebody a glass of water when they're running is not easy. That's putting not just yourself, but somebody else before you. Right?
Yeah.
And that also shows empathy.
Right. So you're saying it brings out your soft skills rather than just the,
Absolutely. Everything else can be learned, but these are some things which will, help us to bring that out there. So take it on. I mean, and the minute you start doing things like that, that builds your confidence. But in all of this, if people still feel, no, I don't have the confidence, all I can say is, hey, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to just listen to you.
Fantastic.
If I can do that, I think I'm done. Where I come from.
Yes, of course. And I think that eliminates having that conversation first, even with your own ecosystem, is so important. Because again, that's my next question, right? Because like you pointed out right in the beginning, reasons for challenges that women face to come back could just be what society thinks of her.
Absolutely.
And that thinking again is our own perception, right? Until we go ahead and ask, we'll never know.
Yeah.
So how do you think the ecosystem, right? Like family, friends, people you have maybe acquainted with for a while, how do they impact this comeback journey for a woman?
Now I'm just going to
See
take
from your own personal experience that you've gone
absolutely.
through.
No, if I just look at my own personal journey, there were times thinking, why do you want to work? Because I want to work for myself, not for anything else. Right? That's
Right.
where I come from. I know what I can do. And there's
Right.
nobody else who can know it better than me. And it's also, I think it's a shared responsibility. Right?
Right.
So, yeah, these are, so when I look back, did I face anything of this? Maybe I was a little lucky with my own support system because my mom used to work. So she was a working
Right.
parent. And she brought me up. She lost her husband when I was 5 months old. So I've seen her going through it.
Right.
So she's my inspiration, right?
Right.
And so she was always around saying, go for it, nothing to stop you. And I'm there for you. Maybe she realized, apart from her dad, she didn't have anybody else for her. She said, I am here for you. So, and I think that's so important today.
I think that's
one person. You don't need too many. Even that one person can make a difference to you.
And they can be right next to you, right? For all
Absolutely.
you know. Yeah. You don't even have to go looking for it outside of your own home sometimes. And I think, again, going back to this conversation we've had at Turkey, we've had so many, we've run a campaign on how important it is to have these difficult conversations sometimes.
We don't have.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we are very hesitant to even have that conversation today.
Yeah, it's so important.
But you start, there is no stopping us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of the other reactions also come from how you present yourself, right? So if you're confident, I don't think anyone can stop you from doing what you have to do or you set your mind to.
Absolutely.
So that's a great example. Yeah. That's a superb example. Thank you, Aparna. So for all of you who have just joined in, yeah, I mean, we're talking about mindset shifts in helping you come back to work, because that's what we're aiming at through our mission 100,000. It's a very important mission. A few years back, we found that there were very few companies who are actually willing to take in, women on a career break who are returning to work. But 8 years down the line, it's a completely different situation. There are programs like internship programs for women who are returning to work. Companies are openly welcoming these women. All it needs is a little bit of a mindset shift on the part of this woman, right? So I'm glad we're having this conversation. You've spoken about your own career journey, and you've also spoken about how if you want to change your career, maybe you were doing something else when you took a break, but now you want to do something entirely different. That's possible also, because I feel like a lot of them hesitate bringing this topic up, saying that I already don't have the skills, I already don't have the confidence. It starts with a very negative, groundwork. So how do you think this switching careers, right, is upskilling the only way to say, I'm confident now to go into another field? Any other tips?
Okay, I think thank you for bringing that up. I'll tell you why, because I can share a personal journey there. So I worked for large multinational organizations. I started my own consulting firm, ran it very successfully for 5 years, where from an IT industry, I moved to completely non-IT industries, right? That itself was not easy. But then I said, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And who's there to stop me, right? But in that journey, I've made some fantastic friends that I'm so glad I took that journey, right?
Right.
Someone who believed in me saying, let's work with Aparna. So very happy with that. After that consulting period, there was I said, now I've done recruitment, I've done the entire HR bit, right? I've learned all of it. Is there anything else that I can do? Of course. I realized I've never run a business unit with where P&L is my responsibility. I've never done life and death situations. I've never done business operations, right? Or business development for that matter. I said business development in a total different industry altogether. And while I was talking, yes, there was an opportunity, but of course, it was like the pay is not what one would expect because it's totally a different industry and it was a very nascent stage. I said, let me do it. At most, what will happen? I will not succeed, no. But the possibility of me succeeding also was there. If I didn't, if I say, okay, it's all right, you can still do it. All I have to do is reach out to people to help me understand the industry better. And I'm glad I did it. For 3 years, almost 3 years, I worked with a geriatric organization, where I didn't do HR. I had elders with me. I was responsible for their health. In the first pandemic, I had almost 350 elders and I made sure all of them were safe. That's the life and death that I was talking about. So did I have prior experience? No. Could I have brought in my ego saying, I know it all? No, because these are elders. They are, they are almost as old as your own mother. So you just have to listen to them. And that's where I realized that listening was so important, right? For them, it's only listening. You're just there for them. Those are some things that, I've got an opportunity. I took it on. It was not money. It was more of just upskilling myself.
Kind of also to dig into what else is within you, right? That you haven't yet explored.
Absolutely. Business development in the healthcare is so different. Did I have to go meet doctors? Of course, I met doctors, and doctors, meeting them is not easy. But there have been times when I went in at 10:30 in the morning and I've waited for a doctor till 10:30 in the night because somewhere I felt it's not fair on my part to intervene with his patients, but finish so that he meets all his patients and then I have a conversation with him. I've done that.
Right. And that teaches you an essential life skill, huh?
Absolutely. There. Was it easy? Of course not. It's not easy. But then for me, it's the patients who mattered first, who came to see him. And I am not just a medical representative there.
Right.
Right. So, these are some experiences that I've had. And what did I do to understand the industry better? But so again, my support system, right? I have very close doctor friends. I'm very happy with this close circle that I have. And they were the ones who taught me so much to help me understand the industry. And I can't thank them enough. So all gratitude to them.
Right. I mean, I like how this conversation is so interwoven into so many aspects that women can actually take away, right? You spoke all at one breath. You spoke about how a close-knit circle can help lift you up. And that could be your gateway to a whole other world of networking.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's important to build these relationships first, the ones that you already have, to, help you have that strong foundation. I know you spoke about your mother a few minutes ago and that she is an inspiration to you. Is there anybody else that you see in the professional field that maybe who inspires you to do more, to do better every day, from who you are to where you want to be? Anybody else?
It's interesting, right? I've been brought up by a lot of women, and I'm very proud of the fact that I've had a lot of strong women who brought me up. So while I was growing up, yes, definitely my mother, but she has a very close friend who is a lawyer by profession, right?
Okay.
So she used to practice at the High Court and stuff like that. And she always says that I'm a child as well. So a lot of things that I've learned from her, right? How professionally one has to be and stuff like that. So she's one. And then while I was, when my son was born, I did meet with another lady who used to run a childcare, right? And she was someone who started her career late. But what did she do? She set up a play home, and that's where my son used to go. And today she's a part of my family.
It's fantastic. It's how close and how uncertain life is, right? Unexpected, pleasantly surprising in many ways. That's so
Absolutely.
beautiful. Yeah.
And there's another lady that I have to mention. She's 83 years old. She's a friend's mom. She volunteers even now, okay, at a Sai Baba Mandir, where she goes and volunteers thrice a week. And my conversation with her is every week we have a 10-minute, I call her every week, okay, for 10 seconds. That's all is our conversation, because she speaks Tamil, I speak English. So I understand Tamil, but I can't really speak it very well, right? So the phone call, and she's so happy just to hear my voice. She doesn't know I'm so happy even talking to her.
That's so beautiful.
At 83, if she can volunteer,
yeah,
and be very proud of the fact. Boss, that's something that we need to learn.
Yeah. But that's so important. Again,
Yeah.
talking about mindset shifts, you see these things happening around you, right? You don't, not to say that your problems are anything that need to be forgotten or, sidelined versus somebody else's problems, but it's just a good lesson to take, to inspire, to draw inspiration from your everyday life that you go through. So thank you for bringing that experience. I think I'm going to keep an eye out now for anybody that I might be missing, during the routine that I'm carrying on. So it's very important because it helps build this confidence, right?
Absolutely.
That's where it comes from.
Correct.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. I know a lot of women, at least the ones that I have spoken to, and I say, what do you do during your free time? And they just look at me like, what? Free time? What are you even talking about? I don't have time. So it gets me to think that, is it really the time or is it the energy to do stuff?
Yeah.
Like we all have 24 hours a day.
That's all we have.
Yeah, even the richest person in the world has 24 hours.
Correct.
So I think it's the way we maneuver through the day. So every time I bring up this topic, nobody wants to talk about it. They say, no, I have enough on my mind, enough to occupy myself with. So I'm not reading books. I'm not looking at, maybe watching shows, maybe a TED talk to inspire, maybe this session. Nobody has the time to hear, so how do you bring out this mindset shift? Because I feel like reading can help a lot. So do you have any recommendations that maybe women can fall back on to draw inspiration from in terms of reading, like a book or a novel or a short story or anything?
So recently, it's so, you've just brought this up because recently I met with Anita Bogle, right?
Wow.
And she's written the book called Equal Yet Different.
Yes.
And I think this is so important for all of us to read, because the number of stories that she's written, the conversations that she's had, I think it just makes the right, I would say the right ingredient, the right recipe for us to read, to just say, hey, there are so many people out there, right? We are not the only ones, but together we can achieve. And I think it's so important to say that one size doesn't fit all, yeah? What works for me might not work for you. So we need to find that.
Right.
And there's no harm in trying and failing. It's all right. It's okay. It's completely okay.
Yeah. It is better to fail than to not have tried at all.
Absolutely. But then only we know we have failed. Nobody else will know, by the way.
Oh, that is so true. Yeah, we never think about that, do we? We never think about it. Yeah.
Only we know, I should have done something else better. I should have done this, a little more better than what it was. Maybe I should have had a better conversation, or maybe I shouldn't have said this. I should have, said something else.
Yeah. Oh
Only
God,
we know.
yes.
Nobody else knows, by the way.
Oh, yes, you've just said it. You've just said it. Like, I think we are our biggest critics.
Oh, yeah.
Women especially, biggest critics. I hope this trend has changed, but I think women are still ruling this part where they will apply to a job only if they meet 90% of the requirement there.
Arey, even if you meet 50%, apply.
Exactly. That mindset shift has to come in.
Correct.
It has to. It has to. Saying that focus on the glass being half full versus half empty.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's half
So,
full. Who's saying half
yeah.
empty?
Yeah,
Drink
it is
from
half full. Refill
Drink
it
from
and
it.
oh wow, amazing. I love these analogies, which is it's every day that you look at these things and you never really stop to think about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, thank you for bringing that up. So I guess what I'm trying to now dive into, because we've spoken a lot about confidence building and the softer skills that you need, right? But what do you think a woman on a career break needs to do in order to maintain the professional relevance, apart from reskilling or apart from keeping in touch with maybe a mentor or somebody who guides you? Do you think anything else during a daily routine would help amp up this professional relevance?
I would say, so, we all get to hear about part-time opportunities, right? Take it up.
Right.
Don't say no. And at times, it's all right to work if there's less of money, but you're getting that experience. Everything can't be just financial, right? So yes, for a few people, that's what it is, right? Then I would say, if you're doing a part-time work, make sure you get paid for it. There's no harm in asking. Unfortunately, women are very bad at asking.
Yeah.
You
We know best.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we ask, then they term us as aggressive.
Yeah.
Well, it's all right to ask. At the most, what will happen again? I will say the person will say no. But if you don't ask, how can you assume the person will say no?
You're right. You're right.
So
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it trickles down to every area in life, right?
correct.
Professional, personal, right? From asking for a role to negotiating on a salary to even asking at home, not even asking, discussing it. We're just afraid to bring it
Stop
up.
asking.
Yeah.
Stop asking. Start
Yeah,
telling.
I mean, there's a quote that says it's better to have done it and then ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
That's why I said tell, don't ask.
Yeah, don't ask, tell. Absolutely. I think that is the key word, right? Wow, you've just opened up like a whole new set of questions, which I will not ask because we don't have time. But I mean, thank you for bringing up so many different aspects, right? Because, and this is, I think this is what I'm trying to establish, that we need a mindset shift in women, first of all. Instead of looking at what's outside of you and say, I don't have opportunities, why not chisel yourself out a little bit more and make yourself capable? Because like you pointed out, we've done it before, right? You were working before.
Yeah.
You just have that little break. It's time to come back. So that's, yeah, that's as simple as it can get.
Pick up, it could be as simple as picking up, what if you had passion somewhere, right? And say, for example, you were a very good painter, an artist, but because you were working, you couldn't. Now, can you make that as a career? Why not? Who's stopping us? Nobody other than ourselves.
Yeah. Our own, I think our own limiting beliefs is what holds us back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're good at driving, who's stopping us from driving people around? Charge, please.
Right.
There are a lot of people who don't know how to drive. Bring it on.
Right. So you're saying that experience matters, the kind of
Yes.
life skills that you gain out of everything you do will ultimately hold you in good stead when you do want to come back to work.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to close this with two very important questions that we have been trying to address. We spoke about stereotyping, right? We spoke about how society just, or rather how the woman perceives society, right? What will they say, or how will I face them, or what am I going to tell them about coming back to work, or whatever that is. How does she face these biases when at the workplace? Any 2 or 3 tips like that they can actually imbibe in their daily life?
Don't give it too much of hearing. Unfortunately, the society and the workplace has a lot of biases. Come on, we also have. Come on, we also come there. So, but then for ourselves, what we have to do works for everybody else, right? So, hence, don't listen to those biases. Do what you have to do. Yeah, somewhere the workplace will have to come up with better policies, is what I feel. A lot of organizations are getting there, right? And hopefully we will be better. But biases, being judgmental starts from us as well.
Right.
Before we judge somebody else, for example, I was asked after I think my first job, no, after the 2 jobs that I finished, one was at the recruitment firm, then I used to work for an organization. I used to work for Cisco. Post that, when I was trying to get back to another place, one of the senior HR folks there asked me, saying, don't you think you'll be older than the rest of the other colleagues you will have? Now, didn't I face that then?
Wow.
Today we get, I mean, today it's a little different,
Yeah.
right? But we still get those questions asked.
Right. I think the important thing is to take it in your stride and move
Absolutely.
on. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
I
only thing you
agree.
had to turn around and tell her is the experience that I come with, they don't.
Yeah. I think, yeah, so that's it. The confidence with which you said that. Right.
Absolutely.
Even if it has happened so far back in the past, you remember it and you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think
I mean,
that's a lot.
recently, you won't believe it, I did meet the person and I said, oh, this is the one who asked me that question. But did I
Wow.
tell her? Of course I didn't.
Wow. So that's another, oh my God, that's another great takeaway, right? Like, imagine what you would feel 5 years from now. You'd look back and you'd be proud of yourself, which is so great to have for a woman who's, struggling to come back to
Yeah.
work. So amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I mean, whoever's listening, guys, I'm sure you have so many questions that might have come up during this conversation. But oh my God, the answers lie, I think, within ourselves. We just need to dig in a little deeper. So I'm going to close this conversation, although there is so much to talk about, and you come with so much experience. What is the best piece of advice that you've been given, that you carry with you and has helped you throughout your journey?
So this is what I tell myself, right? What works for somebody else might not work for you. And don't compare yourself. You are you. And I think that's always worked with me. I've never compared myself with others. And I'm like, what I bring to the table, they don't. So go with that confidence. Things will work. And again, just because it's worked for somebody else, it might not work for you. You need to find your own what works for you, right? And that only you know it better. Nobody else knows it.
Right.
And be ready to give a little more than just taking. Give, it'll come back.
Perfect. That's what we want to do with Mission 100,000, right? Because we know that there are so many women who have actually made a comeback and who've actually succeeded. Women like you, women like so many of them. I think
so many who've succeeded.
Yeah.
Jwala, all I want to say is if there are people who want to talk, who want somebody to just listen to them, I will volunteer to be there. That's
That's
a
fantastic.
commitment from my end.
That's fantastic. I think that's what women need. That's actually what women need. And to have someone to listen to them, I think will help them find that solution themselves, rather than looking for solutions outside of it. Because that's what I find usually, right? When I'm talking to somebody at home, either my mother or my husband, I find the solution as I'm talking about it. I don't
Absolutely.
even want them to say anything. So that's excellent advice. I think tell yourself to not compare yourself to anyone. Just be a better version. I don't even know if that's a fair thing to say, right? Be a better version of yourself.
Be who
We're not
you
even
are.
comparing. Yeah, be who you are.
Just be who you are. You know yourself better than anybody else.
Right.
So stick to that. Do what you can.
Awesome. That's fantastic, Aparna. Thank you. I have managed to complete this within the given time, although I would love to carry on with so many other things. But thank you so much for being with us on this campaign. I think the influence and the impact that leaders like you have on women who want to rise is simply incredible. And we're hoping that this will grow into a 10 times bigger campaign with as many women coming back to work. Thank you so much for giving us this time.
Thank you so much, Ujjwala. And all I can say is wishing Herky all the very best in the 10K 100K campaign. And very proud to be here. And I'm sure this is going to be very successful. And we will have a lot more women coming back to work.
Thank you very much. That means a lot, Aparna. Thank you so much. And to whoever is watching, I hope you have watched this and I hope you will watch it over and over again. If you're doing something, you don't even have to keep the video on, just listen to the audio. There are some quite incredible and invaluable tips that Aparna has shared with us, which you should not miss. So thank you for listening in and come back to work.